this walk we're in Borrowdale, and I've just parked up at Red Brow, and we're doing a little bit of road walking to Elster Brow, where we head off and we'll get up to King's How. It's a busy road, is Borrowdale, and the path here is quite narrow, so you have to have a bit of care. So I'll concentrate on that and catch up in a minute. For this walk we're focusing on the area of Grange Fell, which lies to the south of Derwentwater and Keswick. We've parked at the limited parking space at Red Brow on the Borrowdale road. From there we'll head up through the woods to King's How, before heading southeast towards the Wainwright summit of Grange Fell, which is Brund Fell. Then we'll head on the north ridge up to Brown Dodd. From Brown Dodd's summit we'll retrace our steps back past Jopley How onto Puddingstone Bank, and we'll pick up the good path that then goes round through Thriftwood back to the start. We've left the Borrowdale road behind us, just come over the stile. There's no gate there, so it's a bit awkward if you've got a big dog, because there's no method of getting a dog through. You have to lift him over the fence, which is a bit awkward. And now we're heading up towards King's How. It's warming up nicely, so off comes the jumper. And the plan is today that I'm going to head up to King's How and then onto Grange Fell and across to another small top called Brown Dodd. So these three fells all form part of the Lakeland 365. Two of them were never included on the 214 list, and that's why we're going to have a look at them today. As we climb up the path through the wood, looking behind us we can see the wooded top of Castle Crag on the other side of the valley, and that's a fell that I'll feature in another film. Well, it looks as if we've now cleared the woods. There's only a few trees above us and it's all down behind us. The path coming up was quite rough and indistinct in places, but as long as you watch where you're going, in other words keep an eye of the path ahead, you won't take too many wrong turnings. I took one, but I'd only gone off the path by about 5 or 10 yards. And this is it. This is the view that we're getting now as we rise above those woods. And there's the view right into Borrowdale. High Raise, Great Crag, Glaramara. So let's push on and we'll get to the top of King's How. And this is the summit of King's How. Now there used to be two cairns here, one over there and this one, which was the top of the fell itself. But as you can see, there is not a sign of any cairns now at all, no stones, nothing. But you still have the wonderful view. And not only is it good that way, but it's even better to the north. From this viewpoint you get a great aspect of Derwentwater with the Skiddaw and Blencathra range beyond. We're going to now head down to the southeast towards Brund Fell, which is the Wainwright top of Grange Fell. The path descends down a short rough section before reaching Long Moss, where there's a wire fence which you have to cross using a stile. On the other side, follow the path, past a couple of really nice sheepfolds and head up towards Brund Fell. One way to define whether you're at the Wainwright top of Brund Fell, Grange Fell, is that the path passes between these two walls of rock. But just before you would go through that gap, you head up to the right to this outcrop of rock. And if you look in the other direction, you'll see that impressive block of stone on the left hand side with Skiddaw away behind. When you can see that lined up with Derwentwater and Skiddaw, you know you're at the right Wainwright top. As with a number of the 214 Wainwright fells, his summit of Grange Fell at 1363 feet isn't the highest point of the fell, but it was the only spot height marked on his maps of the time, and that's why he chose this as the summit of Grange Fell for the pictorial guides. This point is more properly known as Brund Fell, and the summit is a large rounded part of the bedrock. Today it's covered with somebody's ashes. They'll soon blow away in the wind. We're now going to go over to the higher point of Grange Fell, which is that outcrop of rock, about 70 metres over to our right. This top is more pointed than the one that we've just been on. And if you follow some of the list, like the hill bagging list, they mark this as the highest point of the fell, but they also mark this as the Wainwright top, but that's incorrect. The height here is 1369 feet, some 6 feet higher than the Wainwright top. Now let's move on towards Joplety Howe and Brown Dodd. Well, we've just left Wainwright's top of Grange Fell, but Grange Fell itself is a little bit complicated because it refers to a whole area of upland which has got many tops. There's Brund Fell, King's Howe, Jopley Howe, this peak of rock behind us here, Ether Knot over my left shoulder, and even beyond that is Brown Dodd. And all of those tops come under the name of Grange Fell. So Brund Fell is the one that Wainwright describes in the pictorial guide. But he also listed the two others of King's Howe and Brown Dodd, way behind us here, which is where we're going to visit now. And he listed those on his first two, when he was compiling the list first, and that's why we're going to have a wander over there. I've never been before, so it should be quite interesting to go and have a look. Using the stile, we'll cross the wall, and then we turn immediately left, and that'll lead us over Joplety Howe Moss towards Knot. If you take Grange Fell as a whole, then Knot is actually the highest point of the area, at 1,378 feet, but Wainwright wasn't to know that. A short pull up takes us to the top of Knot. And as you see, the views are pretty spectacular. Now we're going to head to Brown Dodd, and that's along the ridge that you can see ahead of us. We take the path that goes alongside the wall, indistinct in places, with only a short rock step, which causes any sort of obstacle. It's actually a lovely area of heather and birch trees, and I'm sure later in the autumn this will look absolutely wonderful. And this is the highest point of Brown Dodd, but it's not actually the high point that Wainwright would have marked at 1,204 feet. That's a spot height that lies about 30 metres over to the west. And this is it. This bare patch of rock at 1,204 feet is the point that Wainwright would have marked as the summit of Brown Dodd, even though there's an obvious higher point beyond, which is where we've just been. From here we're going to retrace our steps back along the ridge. Now we're heading back down. We've just passed Joplety Howe. And as you can see behind me, there's Borrowdale. So all we have to do is follow this wall down to the Watton Lath path, and then turn right again, down to Rosthwaite, or towards Rosthwaite, and then we'll turn right, and that'll lead us through the woods, through Thriftwood, to get back to the car. As you can probably tell, it's still a very warm day, hardly a breath of wind, not many people about. Just a shame that there's not a little bit more sunshine, but you can't have everything. And there's the lane that would lead to Watton Lath. Now this is called Pudding Stone Bank, and the only stone I can see that's anything shaped like a pudding is that big one on the right, but maybe that's not it. Anyway, we're heading in the other direction, which will take us down towards Rosthwaite. Ready? Come on. And this is Frith Woods. A simple descent back down to the car, but with wonderful views away over to the left. Shame there's not better light. And that was my walk over Grange Fell, and one that I really enjoyed, because I went and visited some of these more obscure places that I'd never even been to before, like Brown Dodd. But that's part of the Lakeland 365 project, which has taken me to some of the more obscure places on the Lakeland Fells. If you'd like to follow my work on that project, why not check out my website, thelakeland365.co.uk, and there you'll find much more information, including some of my sketches and artistic work, as well as more information on these fells. If you've enjoyed the film, why not click the like button, and even better, subscribe to my channel. You can also buy me a beer or coffee if you find that the films have been informative. There's a link in the description below to a PayPal donate button, and you can just drop £1 or £2 into my pot, and it is appreciated. Until the next film comes along, as I always say, thanks for watching.